As I woke on my second day in this strange new land, I went out to gather more materials. Eventually, I was going to have to build a better shelter, and these tools weren't going to last too long. Eventually, I was going to have to make some kind of forge, fashion some better axe head and better pick. After working this for a while, I decided that it was time to go down the beach and perhaps make contact with the other man that I found sleeping. Certainly didn't want to startle him awake, so I'd see if he was wandering around and make a cautious approach. Looked around to make sure there was no unwanted guests. The bear immediately came to mind. He was a monstrous beast. I certainly didn't want to come upon him unaware. Did see that the birds who had managed to chase me back all the way to this area had decided to stay in the area, which is odd. I figured they'd go back to their nest. So I was getting water. I noticed a new shelter built out on an island. I was pretty sure it wasn't there the last time I was here. Is that the same? No, it couldn't have been. Well, there was a new campsite here. This wasn't the same location. Perhaps another survivor? Perhaps someone from my own party. All kinds of questions are popping in my head. Do I go up unannounced? Do I wait to see somebody wandering around? In the end, I decided it would be better to meet someone on equal terms, both of us aware of each other's presence, rather than sneaking up on someone. That could end nastily. Did find strange pillars here, too. Decided to take a chunk and test it out. Salt. Salt would be handy. Eventually I'd have to preserve food for a longer duration. After getting some, I decided to go back to the ruins to see if maybe the other people in the area were also in the ruins. Couldn't really see my tent from here, so I was fairly certain they wouldn't see me. As I examined the crates of the area, I did find a few new pieces of items and debris that I could make use of. After collecting what I could, it's fairly heavily laden, so I decided to go back to my tent and store what I found. Now it's time to go further down the beach, but first, let's do some repairs. My material started getting a little worn. I had to make some repairs on the axe and the hatchet, make sure my spears are in good condition before wandering down into unknown sections. Once that was complete, it was time to head off. I wasn't sure I wanted to be on the beach. That's kind of like an open, and at least here I had some cover. There's a road of some type. Long ago used, not in very good repair. I wasn't sure if those animals made it, but it didn't make sense. It seemed to be more of a human construction. I was heading down to that beach area where those statues were. Some long ago civilization might have made them. So I got to the area where I'd first found the chicken birds. The babies are still there. And so was that elk and that bear. Well, didn't want to get too close to either one of them, so head back down towards the beach, skirting around carefully looking for any signs of other humans or any other dangers. The bear seemed to be following me, tracking me. Decided maybe I'll go up and check this first little area where the statue was, and that's when I stumbled upon another pack of these lizard dogs. I definitely needed more skins for leathers. But I also didn't want to over hunt these. They had a nest here, they had young. After skinning the first catch, I did take another and left one male and one female. It seemed to be the prime adults. But I didn't want to do any more. Figure as long as I left the parents alone, they'll continue to have more offspring. Perhaps it would be possible to tame them, bring them back home with me. Having gotten what hide I could from them, marked the location in my mind of where the bear was hanging out. Obviously, I'd have to give them a wide berth, and that would mean staying close to the shore. But it seemed to be closing that off pretty good, so I decided, okay, let's take what I have back. So on the trip back, I found, again, the giant sloth on the hill. He didn't seem to be maybe as aggressive, but I didn't want to take any chances. He was rather large himself. I still haven't fully recovered from my experience getting into this land. Had beaten my body, and I was still healing. Gathered what materials I could as I was walking along, and I noticed the sun was going down. Perhaps it'd be good time to sit down and think about my plan of action for the next day. Starting a fire, cooking some meat, and filling my belly. It's time to lay down and get a little rest. It did occur to me, this fire is probably going to mark my location for anyone looking. Oh well, I'll have to take the chance. Yes, tomorrow I'll have to try to make contact. Later, early in the morning, I suppose, I was really thirsty, so I decided to go down and check out the situation and get some water. Didn't see any fire, again, any movement. So I went back to getting some more hide. I almost felt guilty going after these more defenseless creatures, but I knew the plans I had in mind was going to require a lot more sturdy construction material than palm leaves and vines. Went down the beach further and found a new location where the second statue was. Made a mental note of the arched rock at the third statue. Starting to put a layout of the land in my mind so that I knew where I was. So I had to go one more section down the beach and check out the third statue. Again, I could see roads laying up on the hills. As I gauged the distance from home, I noticed that there's a little more wildlife on this section of the beach, perhaps because we had all gathered on the far end. There are more of these giant seabirds, more of the chicken birds, and yes, the whole herd of these lizard dogs. After checking to make sure there's no predators in the immediate area, I decided to go and do some more hunting. I also noted across the bay a couple points of rock angled up towards each other. I now have a fairly good idea of the size of this body of water. I was curious about the other shore, and it looked like there was an area there, a little swampy, that I could cross over. I'll leave that for today. As I got done on my hunting expedition, I was pretty well loaded up. I didn't want to go any further down the beach, so decided it was time to head back home and get another bit of a nap. Then I'll get to work on building that new shelter. So the plan was set in my mind: contact the new neighbors, set up a more permanent structure, and then I had in my mind an old forge that I had worked at as a youth. Proper resources were in the area. I could probably melt some metal and start making myself some better tools. That would definitely be my priority. We're into the third day on Alemia. I was finally feeling a little more comfortable with my surroundings. For now, I was just glad that I was still in one piece and that I was making progress. That'd have to do for 2 days here. Well, he looked emaciated, very hungry. I'd have to watch him for a while. Then, maybe I could approach him, see if he's a friend or a foe. For now, it's time to get some sleep.